Welcome to the Mindset Architect Podcast, where it's all about creating the life you want, the business you want, and making a real difference. Join us in unlocking the code to true success. And now your host, Tony Caliendo, Master Coach with reTHINK Coaching.
Welcome to the Mindset Architect Podcast. I'm Tony Caliendo, Master Coach here at reTHINK Coaching. And as always, I want to thank you for your time. I do believe time is our greatest asset, and the fact that you're willing to share and invest your time with me truly does mean a great deal. So today, I am incredibly excited because I have a really amazing guest with us. And I want to take a moment and let Denise introduce herself. But Denise and I go back many, many, many years where we worked at the same coaching company for a while. And I always admired her style and her energy. It was something that I looked at and thought, can I just bottle up 10% of that? That would make a huge difference in my coaching space. And so really privileged to have her here with us today. She's going to share some great tidbits with us that I think all of us need to hear, regardless of what profession you're in. If you're in a corporate position, entrepreneurship, whatever it is, this will speak to you. So Denise, welcome. And please take a minute and just introduce yourself.
Well, thanks, Tony. I mean, it's an honor and a privilege to be here with you as well. So thank you so much. You know, I've been in real estate for many years, a little over 30 years, and coaching for over 20 years, all sorts of good things. I don't know. What would you like to know? What should I be sharing about the past?
Sure, but Denise, actually, I want to focus more on what you're doing right now. I think we can look at and find all of the great things you did in the past, which I believe has led you to here. And what really inspired me to reach out is I've been watching your journey on Facebook unfold.
I have this motto that I keep writing lately that is, I went fast to go slow. And, you know,
Wow.
I don't know. I think a lot of people who may be on here today, maybe you're a little bit like me, that when you started in in your work mode and when you're young, you just go so fast. And there's always something else to go for, another ladder to climb. And there's just, you go, 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 go. And I always thought one time I said, I just want 1 month off for the holidays. That's all I want. 1 month off for the holidays. And Tony, I got it.
That's awesome.
No, I broke my ankle and had to be in
Oh,
bed for a month. So
that's
way
not so
back,
great.
I know, way back then I realized you have to be super intentional about what you actually ask for, or else you're going to get it, just not the way that you want, right?
True. That's really true. The universe
Hey,
delivered,
you
just not quite how you thought it would.
That's right. So fast forward all these years later, right? Quickly, I'll just share 2024 was super rough for me personally, my family. We had some outside occurrences happen, and regardless of whether they happened to me or allowed it to happen, I felt very out of control in 2024. Although for your listeners, maybe they can notice the language that I felt out of control, right?
Yes.
Because a feeling you can change, but a being out of control, I can't change. So I was very aware that I felt out of control of these circumstances. Short story, we had a flood in our home that we had to move out of the home for 10 months. My husband thought he had a form of cancer. Bold, a program that I taught and loved for 10 years, asked me if I was tired, and the answer was no. And my main source of income was gone. We had health scares in our family, and we weren't even living in our home.
Wow.
And so, of course, I knew that I had options, and I felt that I didn't have control over what was happening around me, right?
Yes.
So I reminded myself that we have 3 reasons for change. And maybe you guys want to write them down, or I don't know if you guys are note takers. So the first reason that we make changes in our life is we feel forced by outside situations, or we are actually forced by outside situations or our perception of it, right? The second reason we make change is something isn't working in our life and we think that it can be better or we think it could be different. And then the third reason is you truly desire a different outcome or experience. Like ooh, that looks great. I'm going to go get some of that. Right. And so
Yes,
we can make changes for those. And so that's sort of where we got to in February of this year. My husband and I were like, man, life has just gotten really hard. And oh, by the way, we weren't paid by the insurance company. And, so we were losing our savings. We were digging into that. We were fighting an insurance company. By the way, my husband didn't have cancer. So that was really
that's
great,
awesome.
you know? And he looked at me and he said, I think we need to just sell everything and go travel. And I was like, no, I love my house. We just got it back. And after a couple weeks, I realized I said, you know what? If we're going to sell our house and just go buy another house and try to change our financial situation, I'm not up for it. Like I'll dig in and I'll fight for that. I'll figure it out. We'll go do something. If we're going to sell everything in our world and go do what we've always wanted to do, which is experience new places, I'm for that.
I love that. I love that. Denise, I'm just listening to what you're saying in your story. And the three reasons for change, right? First, it's not working. There's a better, or you have a desire for a different outcome. And it's all three of those happen to you.
You're so smart. Exactly. It
Yeah. I mean,
it is
all three.
it's true. You know, in this program that I taught for many, many years, it's interesting because a basic tenet of our program is that we're more motivated by pain in our life, that will cause change, right? And several years ago, I had a coach, Tony. I always have a coach. And this coach said to me, oh, I finally understand you, Denise. You've always been so hard for me to understand. You're more motivated by pleasure than you are pain. You're motivated by pleasure. And I knew in that moment that that was totally incorrect, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when I look at this, and Tony, do you ever notice how people are constantly doing all three, right?
Yes. Yes.
Like, I'm tired, I want a day off, so they just take the day off and they don't go to work.
Yes. A
Or
temporary quick fix.
yeah, or they don't have enough money, so then they go to work.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah,
Forced, forced, forced. And it's funny, Denise, is like you had all three of them, and then you had that coach share that with you. And I think it's really important to stop there for a second because if you weren't congruent with who you were, you might have believed their story about you. And that can be detrimental. We start to think, especially coming from a coach, someone that you trust, telling you that, how much consideration did you give to that comment, or did you just know immediately that's not me?
I knew immediately it wasn't me, and I did push back, and that created an interesting dynamic. Although here's what I do know: when we know that something is off, right? And the coach had my best interest at heart. So, I
Sure.
mean, that's all good. When we know that something is off, it's that feeling. I want to go back to that idea that it's a feeling, right? That when we feel something is off, or we feel that something's important to us, or our mind keeps going back and giving energy to something, I've learned that it's an indicator that there's something important about this in our world, and we have to pay attention to it,
Yes.
or else it's going to
Yeah.
keep coming back.
That's a
Right?
great awareness. It's not a trigger necessarily, but it is the thing that hits you that you're like, I got to pause for a second and give this some energy.
Yes. So what's going on? Where's that coming from, right? Um,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
That's
Y
big. Go ahead.
yeah, I was thinking about this. I don't know, do you ever meditate? Like, are you a
Every
medi
day. Every day.
Okay. So you probably are much more advanced than I am. Years ago, I went to a meditation course because I had taken I'd read some books on meditation, sat and did this, nothing happened. So I ended up going to a 4-week Sunday meditation course. And I was it was so boring to me, I'll just have to tell you. And I was like, "How long is this hour and a half gonna take?" Because it felt like a year.
Yes.
So, after I think it was the 3rd week, I asked the instructor, I said, "How long does it take for you to focus on anything for more than, like, a split second?" Because my mind was listening to the cars outside, it was listening to the breathing, it was listening to rustling in the room, and she said, oh, I can't focus on anything for more than a couple seconds. I said, what? Uh, And she goes, Denise, it's the practice of bringing, because we would focus on this flame. It's the practice of bringing your mind back to the flame. The practice is it goes over, your mind wanders and you bring it back. Mind wanders and you bring it back. It's the practice is what we're doing. And I was like, oh, I get it.
Yep. Yes.
And so we want to go and do something. And this happens. It's the practice of bringing our mind and our life back to that center, like that road, that path that's the straightest. And this happens and we bring it back. This happens and we have thinking and we bring it back. And the closer we can keep bringing our mind back from the highs, the lows, the outside influences, the real things that we create, the things other people create,
Yes.
the more that we can have this great life, whatever that looks like for
100%. And, meditation, I think, is different for everybody. Some people it comes in the form of prayer. Some people, if they just take 2 minutes and focus on their breath, it's what they need to get recentered. For me, some of my best thoughts come in meditation because I've quieted my brain down enough to allow something new to flow in. And so I think we all have a different form of practice for meditation. For me, it's the discipline and it's part of my morning routine that has made it probably the most powerful. And I'm not so sure it's necessarily the act of meditation as much as it is my brain knows where we're going to go every morning. We're going to get coffee. We're going to have a quiet moment. We're going to meditate. We're going to journal, and then life goes on. So yeah, I love that. It really is the practice of bringing things back to center.
and I actually do a lot of meditation now, years later.
Fantastic.
Um, I like guided meditations. That keeps
Sure.
this active brain going in a direction. So there's one thing to focus on during that time, right?
Yes, 100%. That's all I do. If I've done some breath work where it's silence, and your mind does have a tendency to take you where it wants to go. And so I'm a big believer in guided meditation, and mine is not long. It's like 13 and a half minutes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I
Yeah.
love
So
it. I
anyway,
love
all
it.
right. So
Okay.
you're on your journey. You're realizing that it's not really about pleasure or pain. It's this dance, right? So tell me a little bit more about how you're using this in your life and this huge decision
Yeah.
to sell out your house, everything you own. I mean, for me, that gives me a little bit of anxiety because I would have to figure out how am I going to replace the certainty of home
Mhm.
base.
Yeah.
And so I'm just curious of the tools and resources you use. I know it took you a couple weeks to say, okay, I'm in. If it's for this reason, I'm in. What emotions did you go through after you said, let's go?
Well, yeah, all sorts of things, right? So we put our home on the market. Luckily, we had a lot of equity, right? We did that well. Real estate's in our blood, so we've always moved up, moved up, moved up. We did have savings as well. We didn't go through all of it, right? We could just see the
Sure.
writing on the wall. And we the house sold in 10 days. Um,
Wow.
Closed in a month. So, really we went from I'm not doing this to sold and houseless in 8 weeks. So we moved in with my brother and sister-in-law. They were very gracious. And we knew that we were going to go traveling, although we wanted to go to Europe first. You only have 90 days. So anyway, there's a reason for all this. So we had to time these things. And we also have a dog that we got in a year ago, October, who we wanted to travel with. So like we were planning this life, right? And my husband, it was about a week later, we're at my brother's and he said, "Hey, I signed up with Carvana to sell my car today. Can you give me a ride?" I said, "Okay." So I'm like, well, I didn't know. Well, like, we really hadn't decided what to do with our cars. And you have to have a car, right? So
Maybe.
I was like, well, what time is this? Well, I have nothing to do, so I can drive you. We're driving and I said, "Do you think they'll buy my car? Like, if you don't need a car, do I need a car?" So we walk into Carvana at noon, and at 1:10, we're in a Lyft to the airport to rent a car for the next couple weeks because
Wow.
we sold both of our
I'm
cars.
sorry. So you got into action right away.
You get into action right away. So when you know what that center line is, we want to travel, we want to experience new things. We're not doing this to go backwards. We're doing this to go forwards. Do you need two cars and insurance payments and a place to pay for a rental, I guess, to store the car?
No.
So you go through these like it's all new questioning of what you I am constantly like having paradigm shifts through this experience.
Nice.
I'm like, no, I guess we don't.
Isn't that funny? Because we've been conditioned from a young age. You go to school, you graduate, you might go to college, you might not, you might get a trade, you might get certification, whatever. And this is what you're supposed to do. And I've never heard anybody say, hey, at whatever age, you're going to sell everything you own and go live a different life. And so I imagine it is a shift. I just sit around, look at my office and I think, okay, this stuff wouldn't be here, right? I'd be down to a laptop and an iPad and a microphone. So I can imagine the stuff that comes up. You're questioning the old model to the new model. I don't know anybody else is doing this. I'm sure there's people who are, but you don't hear about this very often. So I love your sharing that constantly there's something coming up that makes you question, why am I doing this? Do we
And
need to do
it's really what do I want? Like, what do I want going forward? So anybody who knows me, I like things. I have added to our economy a lot with the money that I've earned over the years.
that? Yes.
I had the biggest closet. I love things. And
Mhm.
so since April, we've been living out of each of us get two large suitcases. What's
Wow.
interesting is when we got back, so we had two large suitcases. Actually, we traveled with three because the fourth was our dog carrier. So
Okay.
the
Of
dog had as
course.
much stuff as we did. We go to Europe. We end up staying 2 months in Spain. We were going to go to Portugal. And a friend of ours saw us on Facebook and she was in Barcelona. We were visiting Barcelona. And she says, oh my gosh, I'm in Barcelona. We meet up for dinner that night. We had a wonderful, she invited us to her apartment and we had a wonderful dinner. And she goes, Denise, I think you're going to be a little bored in Portugal for that amount of time. I think you should go to Nice, France. So we jumped on our reservation that night to see if it was changeable. It was. And we found a place in France and went to Nice, France
Wow.
and stayed there for a month. And we actually came back with less things than we went with. Or maybe that's not true. It was about a wash, but we came back with different things. Let me put it
Okay.
that.
Okay.
So you're this paradigm that I need and I desire all these things is was real at the time, and it's changing constantly. Like, you know, uh, I don't know, I bought a red notebook, right? I've been carrying this everywhere because I'm used to writing things down. I don't have a lot in it.
Wow. I love that. So, this is what I love. I think we as humans have been conditioned, especially Americans, that more is better. More means something. More means success. It might mean happiness. It just means so much. And when we do what you're doing, which is part of what I talk about is, are we doing the right more? Or are we just doing more for the sake of more? And it could be, I don't like to say right or wrong, but it is, right? It's like you're doing more without giving it a lot of thought. You went to Europe with a bag full of stuff that you thought was the right more, and you left some and exchanged some, right? And you're creating that space for magical things to happen. The other thing I want to ask you about, because I think this is a struggle a lot of people have, and you said you do knowing what you want. And what I find interesting, and I'm sure you have too, as we coach people, sometimes asking someone that simple question, what do you want, is the hardest question you could ever ask someone because we've drifted so far away from what we want because we've fallen into this is how life is supposed to be, that we almost have to undo it by saying, what don't you want?
It's interesting you say that because I wrote a couple questions down that people could ask themselves,
Yes, love this.
whatever it is they want to do differently, right? Like whichever those three factors for change, if you're looking for change, what do you do in your free time? Like if somebody were to do what I were to do, right? What do you actually want to do in your free time? Because when you sell everything, you have a lot more free time. You don't have to place the cartridge in the filter in the refrigerator. You don't have to do yard work. You don't have to clean out your closet. You don't have to mow your grass, right? What do you actually want to do? That is a mind bending experience. And I don't think you could just answer the question. You have to experience it because you have time to. What do you spend your money on? When you've packed all your things up and you don't have to pay property taxes, you don't have to pay car insurance. We did have a car rental, right? Yet, what do you really want to spend your money on when you're going to put all your belongings that you did keep into storage without access to it because it's so crowded for 2 years? What's important to you? And then the third thing, and this probably should move to the top for me,
Sure.
is who are you going to spend time with? Because the people you're used to spending time with in many instances are still working. So these were the people you enjoyed having conversations with, and your conversation, that paradigm changes so quickly. It could feel invisible to a certain degree. And yet I wrote down in some journaling a couple days ago, am I invisible or am I invincible?
Mm, that's
And
powerful.
how will I live into that?
Yeah, I love that. And these, the what do you want is such a challenging question because we get so caught. I'm saying this general, it's not for everybody, but most of us are so caught up in the, hurry up, right? Do this, do this, do this. Next step, what's next? And for those of us who are drivers, we don't pause very often. It's like, great, we accomplished what's next. Great, we accomplished. We just keep move, move, move. And so those are really powerful questions. What do you want to do with your free time? First of all, it's like you got to give yourself permission to have free time, right? Number one. And then what do you want to spend your money on? Because a lot would be freed up just from the daily, like you're saying, I don't have car insurance. We don't have this. We don't have the filter in the fridge. These are really powerful questions. They're very simple, but they're powerful because it gets you to think completely differently than the everyday that we've been conditioned to do. And invisible or invincible, right? I feel like I could answer that question for you, but I'm curious, what was your answer?
Well, it's interesting because so for a time you go through what's my identity and what was that tied into? And after some time, it's a process, by the way. It's like, I'm not going to tell you, I just like, I'm invincible. I do believe now through habits that I've learned my entire work life that I'm putting into this life, I'm totally invincible. And I'm not saying that I'm never jumping back into the work world. In fact, that's probably not, I'm sure I will. I think I desire to.
Sure.
And that's invincible.
Yes.
That choice to be able to do that is invincible. And so, yeah, I can do anything that I choose to do. I still have to figure out what that is, right?
Yeah. But the
Right.
choice, the freedom, right? I think as entrepreneurs, we crave freedom and flexibility. And we a lot of times don't give ourselves permission to do that. And I think the other thing, Denise, I know you can relate to this when at our previous company, when I left, I had over 40 clients, which is just a huge client load, right?
It
But
is.
that was the definition of success.
Right.
And so when I left to do rethink, I only had 8 clients. And so it took me a minute to redefine what success was, versus having a huge, client roster of maybe not the right fit people, but we did it just because to this new world. And so I think that ties in. And I think it's important for us to embrace that your new success may not look anything like the old one. And for me, one of the first things I had to do after about 6 months on my own, so it took me a minute to get it because I was
Mm.
putting so much pressure on myself to perform, get to 40, get to 40. And it's like, that's not my definition of success anymore.
Right.
It's just not. It's like, I
Right.
got to clear the end and kind of that clearing again, right? Getting rid of the wrong more. And that clearing allowed some amazing clients to show up on my roster that I still have today. And we're the perfect fit for each other. So, I think this lesson in this journey that you're on, all could learn from. And that's why I wanted you on today, because just, giving the 3 reasons why we change and then these 3 powerful questions, I hope everybody wrote it down. Because even if you're not in a position where you were to take this leap of faith and do what
Mhm.
you've done, it's really good to start loosening up our old stories, start loosening up what's really possible for us. So even if you're listening to this and you're not in a position to make a big change, make a little one.
Yeah. Well,
Answer
it's
those questions.
pushing back it's pushing, as I'm listening to you, it's pushing back about the expectations that we've built for ourselves and we're comparing ourselves to.
Right.
We're 20 something years old and we create this expectation of what our life is going to look like and where we're going to be at my age, right? And then we're either there or beyond it or not there or it's totally different. And we compare and it steals our joy. So what
Yes.
if you just stop comparing and we we declare it like this is perfect for me today. And whatever I
Yes.
declare perfect tomorrow is great too. And
Correct.
go for that, right?
Correct. And I think I love what you're saying because it took me a minute and I've reframed comparison for myself and my clients is like, if I was comparing myself to you, I'd be like, oh my God, I'm so jealous. Versus I love comparison because it shows me what's possible. The
That's
fact that one person did it, right? Like I can compare myself to you and say, holy cow, it's possible versus I can't believe it. She's so much better than me. And we do let it steal our joy. What you're doing and what we're talking about today may land with one person that looks at it and says, she did it. I could do it.
yeah.
And so I do love comparison in a very different way and a healthier way. Yeah, I
I
love it.
love that. It's like taking your life and turning it sideways and shaking it out and picking
Yes,
the top 4 things you get or the top 4 things that'll fit in your suitcase, right?
it's
Um,
amazing.
I
Yeah, I
appreciate you
love
so
it.
much. You're
Oh
so
my
awesome.
gosh, I appreciate you. So we're going to wrap up here in just a minute. Any closing words of encouragement or Denise wisdoms that you want to share as we kind of wrap this up for people to walk away and say, I'm going to take action on what? What do you want people to take action on?
Well, I you have a vision of where you wanna be, right? And I'm not talking about work right now because obviously that's not where my life is right now. You have a vision for where you wanna be, how you wanna feel in that moment when you get there, and take that feeling and create that one feeling today. So if you want to feel like you have more time, create out a space of time and do for 10 minutes or an hour that thing that would cause you to have that feeling that you desire. Maybe it's connection with another person, or maybe it's time to yourself, or maybe it's, I'm a financial genius and cut one thing out of your off a credit card. Like just do that one thing for 10, 15 minutes or an hour and then stack it. Like we stack these habits and these good decisions and so just stack something fabulous today and then go tomorrow and stack it. And you start to anchor these habits and these little decisions that turn into big decisions over time.
I
So
love it. I love it. I love it. So we're going to hang out together for a second after we stop this, but
awesome.
I just want to thank you for your time and your friendship. That's probably the most important thing to me ever is that we stayed connected and we may have gone a few moments without direct communication, but I just truly value you as a human being and a friend. So I appreciate that. For people who are listening, you might be like, oh my gosh, I want to connect with Denise. And here's my commitment. As soon as Denise knows what her next step is, I'll let you know. And if somebody wanted to connect with you, we can figure that piece out if that's okay.
Well, they can always follow our adventures at on Instagram at Little Jet Big World. That's my dog, Little Jet Big World, and it's all fun. That's all it is. It's fun. It's the good stuff. A little bit of the challenges in there, and yet I appreciate you, Tony. Thank you so much for having me here today,
Of
and
course.
just yeah.
Of course. I can't wait to get updates. So, all right, team, we will see you in a week. If you enjoyed listening to this podcast, you must come check out the Mindset Architect Group Coaching Program. It's our monthly program where we explore the power of your mindset, help you identify what you truly want in business and life, and then help you reach those goals. Come check us out at rethinkcoaching.com/group-program. That's rethinkcoaching.com/group-program. We'll see you there.